Here are the top stories for today, February 3, 2022. President Rodrigo Duterte continues to work and act on urgent matters as he is under quarantine after being exposed to a COVID-19 case among his household staff. The Philippines has now over 59 million fully vaccinated Filipinos, or close to 76% of the target population. It also gears up for the inoculation of children aged 5 to 11. Commissioner Socorro Inting sits as acting chief of the Commission on Elections after 3 of its officials, including Chairperson Sharif Abbas, retire from the poll body just over 3 months before the May 9 elections. And the Science and Technology Department sees the need for investments in the pharmaceutical industry as the country grapples with the COVID-19 pandemic and other health concerns. Good day, I am William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. President Rodrigo Duterte is currently observing mandatory quarantine protocols after exposure to a household staff who tested positive for COVID-19. Acting presidential spokesperson and Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles says President Duterte has since been tested for COVID-19, and while the results came out negative, he is currently observing mandatory quarantine protocols. Nograles said the president is still in constant communication with cabinet members to ensure that urgent matters are addressed while in quarantine. About 75.7% of the country's target population are now fully vaccinated against COVID-19. National Task Force Against COVID-19 consultant Dr. Maria Paz Corrales said more are expected to receive the life-saving shots as the national government further ramps up its vaccination campaign. Corrales was among the officials who welcomed the arrival of 455,130 doses of government-procured Pfizer vaccine last night at the NAIA Terminal 3. The latest vaccine shipment was intended for the adult population. Corrales said the government is planning to conduct another round of the national vaccination days for the young age group with the arrival of the 780,000 doses of reformulated Pfizer vaccine for the 5 to 11 years old group. The country was at the height of its national vaccination days in December when Odette struck provinces in the Visayas and in Mindanao. The weather disturbance caused massive flooding and power outages that went on for days, disrupting the vaccination program in many areas. The Philippines' coronavirus risk classification is down from critical to moderate level as the national positivity rate declines. Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergara said the national positivity rate declined to 35.4% from the 46.8% peak on January 18. Cases to continue to decrease in Central Luzon, Calabarzon, and Metro Manila, while others are still seeing a high number of infections. Vergara said the country's average daily attack rate is still at high risk, but it already went down to 19.43 cases for every 100,000 individuals.
Unti-unti na pong bumababa ang mga kaso ng COVID-19. Kaya naman po bumababa na rin ang ating national positivity rate. Makikita po sa isang graph, ng graph na ito ang blue line na nagre-representa ng pagbaba ng COVID-19 cases, habang ang red line naman po ay tumutukoy sa ating positivity rate. Mababatid sa graph na mula sa 46.8% peak noong January 18, ang positivity rate natin ay bumaba na sa 35.4%. Gayon din po ang ating hospital utilization rate ay under control dahil karamihan po sa ating mga COVID-19 cases ay banayad or mild lamang ang mga simptomas na maaari namang gamutin sa bahay.
Meanwhile, the Health Department noted an increase in the number of COVID-19 infections among children aged 5 years old and below. Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergara said some 632 kids in this age group were infected with coronavirus from January 24 to 30, higher than the 554 7-day moving average recorded during the peak in September. Vergara urged parents and guardians to get their children inoculated as soon as possible. She emphasized that vaccines are free, safe, and effective for all age groups, including children.
may pagbaba sa kaso ng COVID-19 sa mga 60 years old at pataas. Nagkaroon lamang po ito ng kaunting increase ngayong January. Sa kabilang banda, makikita na nagkaroon ng pagtaas sa kaso ng COVID sa ating pediatric age group kung ikukumpara po natin ito noong Setyembre na meron tayong Delta experience. Lumalabas na may pagbaba sa proportion ng mga kaso ng COVID-19 sa 12 to 17 years old, pero may pagtaas naman po ng proporsyon ng mga kaso sa 5 taon gulang at pataas. Ang Department of Health ay magsisimula na ng vaccination para sa mga 5 hanggang 11 taong gulang. Ito po ay ilo-launch ngayong Biyernes, February 4 sa iba't ibang lugar sa Metro Manila. Naiintindihan po namin ang pag-aalala ng mga magulang sa safety at efficacy ng bakuna para sa ating pediatric population. Gusto po naming malaman ninyo na maigi pong pinag-aralan ng ating mga eksperto ang formula ng bakuna para sa 5 to 11 years old at sinisigurado ng gobyerno na ito po ay ligtas at hindi magdudulot ng anumang malubhang epekto o nakakasamang side effects.
Laboratories and hospitals are told to dispose of their medical waste properly amid reports that 7 children caught COVID-19 after playing with garbage. This following a news report that a garbage containing over 1,900 syringes and 2,000 blood sample tubes for COVID-19 tests and HIV test kits dumped by a diagnostic center in Catanduanes were found scattered on the shoreline. Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergara said, remind laboratories and facilities that there are laws and policies that cover this kind of violation. Vergara said the DOH continues to closely coordinate with other agencies, including healthcare facilities and local governments, in providing guidelines on the disposal of COVID-19 waste.
Gusto ho namin paalalahanan lahat ng ating laboratorio, lahat ng ating facilities. Meron ho tayo mga batas na sumasaklaw sa mga ganitong violations. Meron din po tayo mga polisiya to guide you on what you're supposed to do regarding this medical waste. We are not going to tolerate this kind of irresponsible behavior.
Health officials stressed the need for the country to come up with our own virology institute and vaccine manufacturing capacity to effectively respond to future pandemics and other viral diseases. Dr. Ted Herbosa, medical advisor of the National Task Force Against COVID-19, said during the start of the pandemic, the country had difficulty sourcing vaccines and medical supplies that would protect Filipinos against the highly transmissible coronavirus infection. He said the government also had to endure a long turnaround time for COVID-19 testing at the onslaught of the pandemic, since the samples must be sent abroad for results. President Rodrigo Duterte earlier urged Congress to enact a law creating the Virology Science and Technology Institute of the Philippines, or VIP. Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergara said the creation of the VIP will save resources by avoiding procurement from other countries. She said the country is fully capable of producing such vaccines through scientists from the UP National Institute of Health and the DOST's Balik Scientist Program. The Department of Tourism says the country's tourism industry is ready to welcome fully vaccinated international travelers. This as the Philippines will now allow fully vaccinated international tourists from visa-free countries beginning February 10, provided that they present a negative RT-PCR test taken within 48 hours before departure from the country of origin. Tourism Secretary Bernadette Romulo Puyat said the sector had been preparing for this development ever since the borders were closed in 2020. She said most tourism workers have received vaccination against the coronavirus. She also assures that health and safety protocols would remain in place to prevent the transmission of the virus. To date, a total of 157 countries enjoy visa-free entry privileges to the Philippines, including some of its top tourist markets such as South Korea, Australia, Canada, Japan, Malaysia, Singapore, United Kingdom, United States, and Germany. The government is also eyeing to further streamline travel rules in destinations to make travel more convenient, especially for foreign tourists. Still ahead, the poll body deposits the source codes of the 2022 polls to the central bank for safekeeping. And the enactment of a compensation bill for Marawi will soon boost the conflict-torn city's recovery. Details ahead. Keep it here on the PNA Newsroom. Comelec Commissioner Socorro Inting will serve as the acting chairperson pending the appointment of replacement for Comelec chairperson Sherif Abbas. The details from Marita Muwahe.
The Commission on Elections is now composed of Acting Chair Socorro Inting, Commissioners Marlon Casquejo, Aimee Ferolino, and Ray Bulay. This as Comelec Chairperson Sherif Abbas, Commissioners Rowena Guanzon and Antonio Co. Jr. have retired 3 months ahead of the 2022 national and local elections. Inting, being the senior official, will be the acting chairperson of the poll body until Duterte appoints the successor of Abbas. During the retirement ceremony held yesterday afternoon, Abbas said the successful holding of midterm elections in 2019 was one of the milestones he achieved as official of the poll body in the last 6 years. Abbas was first named as Comelec Commissioner by the late President Noynoy Aquino in 2015. He was appointed to head the commission by President Rodrigo Duterte 2 years later. Guanzon, who is not in good terms with Ferolino due to the alleged delay in the release of the resolution on Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr.'s disqualification case, said she is retiring with a grateful heart. For his part, Co said what he will miss about his work in the Comelec, aside from his writing decisions, is the chance to travel in the country. Co said it would be difficult for him to leave Comelec, which gave him a sense of fulfillment. Co was appointed by Duterte in 2018, replacing the post vacated by Abbas. Malacanang earlier said President Rodrigo Duterte already has a short list of possible appointees who will replace 3 outgoing officials. For the PNA Newsroom, I am Marita Muwahe.
The Commission on Elections deposited on Wednesday the source codes of the automated election system for the May polls to the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. Comelec Executive Director Bartolome Sino Cruz Jr. and Law Department Director John Rex Laudianco turned over the security boxes containing the source codes to the central bank's representatives. Comelec spokesperson James Jimenez said the event is the major part of protecting the integrity of the elections, which is being questioned amid a feud between 2 of its top officials. Jimenez said the move guarantees that the source codes that will be used on election day are trustworthy. Meanwhile, BSP Managing Director Rosabel Guerrero noted that only the poll body can access the compartment inside the vault where the boxes are kept. The Commission on Elections have called on local candidates in Antique province to commit to the holding of safe, peaceful, and orderly elections this May. More on this and other news from the provinces from Chris Mundo.
The Commission on Elections has encouraged local candidates in Antique to participate in a covenant signing to show their commitment to a safe, peaceful, and orderly May 2022 elections. Comelec Provincial Election Supervisor Will Arsenio said the Antique Provincial Police Office is now coordinating with the Provincial Interagency Task Force to be permitted to hold a covenant signing for provincial and municipal candidates. San Jose de Buena Vista held a covenant signing on January 18, where 24 candidates, including unopposed Mayor Elmer Untaran, participated. For the provincial candidates, the covenant signing might be at the St. Joseph Cathedral in San Jose de Buena Vista. In Negros Occidental, the Comelec is now accepting applications for media accreditation for the May 9 national and local elections. Media personnel who want to apply can submit the filled-out application form together with the requirements to their office. Freelancers must submit a valid assignment letter from the bona fide media organization for which he or she is on assignment. The filing of an application for accreditation is until March 11, 2022. Meanwhile, the Police Regional Office in the Davao Region announced the number of cities and municipalities under the region's election watch list area. These areas include a city and 8 municipalities in Davao del Sur, a municipality in Davao Occidental, 3 municipalities in Davao del Norte, a municipality in Davao Oriental, and 11 municipalities in Davao de Oro. The PRO 11 is also considering 7 municipalities as areas of concern or those that have suspected election-related incidents in the last 2 elections. They have categorized 1 city and 17 municipalities under election areas of immediate concern, or those who are also affected by armed threats from the new People's Army. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Chris Mundo.
Moving on to business, the closed fishing season in northeastern Palawan has been lifted on February 1 after 3 months. In 2015, the fisheries sector and other stakeholders signed a joint agreement closing the fishing season in northeastern Palawan from November to January every year. The closed fishing season aims to protect and replenish the population of round scad or galunggong within the conservation area. The Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources said the period also prohibited the use of purse seine, ring net, and bag net in catching galunggong. Agriculture Secretary William Dar earlier signed a certificate of necessity to import 60,000 metric tons of small pelagic fish to meet the demand for the first quarter of 2022. Aside from the closed fishing season, extent of damage incurred by the fisheries sector from Typhoon Odette last year affected the fish supply in the market. The Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry has partnered with the Department of Information and Communications Technology to pilot test satellite broadband internet connectivity in remote areas. Under the said partnership, PCCI and DICT will choose 6 areas across the country for the pilot run of the Internet via Satellite project. PCCI President George Barcelon said this initiative would help those in remote areas to tap opportunities and services using digital technology, especially during the pandemic. He said the satellite project should benefit micro, small, and medium enterprises, local government units, public schools, and local clinics, among others. The PCCI chief added that internet via satellite can help attract investments to develop these remote areas. Data from the DICT in 2019 showed that 88% of barangays do not have access to free Wi-Fi, 60% do not have telecommunications towers, and 70% do not have fiber optic cables. The Chief of Task Force, Bangon Marawi, is looking forward to the passage of the Marawi Compensation Bill, saying it will complement the continuing rehabilitation of war-torn Marawi City. More on this from Claire Gighe.
Following the approval of the Marawi Compensation Bill in the 3rd reading in the Senate, Task Force Bangon Marawi or TFBM Chairman Secretary Eduardo Del Rosario said that this is a huge boost to the Maranaos. He saw the measure as a help to the Maranaos in Marawi City affected by the 2017 siege to rebuild their lives. The bill aims to provide compensation for the loss or destruction of private properties brought about by the 5-month battle between government forces and ISIS-inspired terrorists more than 4 years ago.
The Task Force Bangon Marawi welcomes the Senate's approval of the Marawi Compensation Bill. It is a huge boost to the morale of our Maranao brothers and sisters as they have long been clamoring for this legislation.
Del Rosario has been fully supportive for the bill's passage into law, saying the measure will complement the massive government-led rehabilitation of the country's lone Islamic city.
This will ensure the total completion of the rehabilitation with the reconstruction of public infrastructures now in the final stages. The compensation bill's approval will allow private individuals not only to rebuild their properties but also rebuild their lives.
The TFBM, along with its 56 implementing agencies, has until now been focusing on rehabilitating public infrastructures like school buildings, road networks, bridges, mosques, public parks, sports and convention complexes, and public market, since construction for such facilities went on full blast in July 2020. For PNA Newsroom, Claire Gigha of the Philippine Information Agency, Lanao del Sur.
Up next, the World Health Organization expresses concern over increasing COVID-19 deaths. And another games amid the pandemic, the torch relay for the Winter Olympics in Beijing begins. More stories when the PNA Newsroom returns.
Kung customer ka, pupuntahan mo ba yung mukhang safe naman o yung certified na safe? Ang safety seal ay patunay na certified safe ang iyong business dahil nasusunod ang minimum public health standards. Meron din itong QR code para mapadali ang contact tracing. Ito ay libre lang. Pero, kailangang i-renew every 6 months or every year kung nasa tourism sector ang iyong business. Kung meron ka ng mga documents na ito, pwede ka na mag-apply para sa safety seal certification. May iba-ibang office para sa iba't ibang klase ng mga negosyo. Pag na-determine nyo na ang issuing authority, simple lang ang steps para makuha ang safety seal. Pumunta sa office ng issuing authority o sa kanilang website. Kumuha ng safety seal checklist at magsagawa ng self-assessment para sa iyong business. I-submit ang checklist at abangan ang inspection schedule. Pag na-approve ang application, bibigyan kayo ng safety seal sticker. Pag hindi naman na-approve, sasabihin kung anong health standard ang hindi nasunod at bibigyan kayo ng pagkakataong ayusin ito. Pag nakuha na ang safety seal, ipaskil ito sa may entrance para makita agad ng mga customer. Pwede nyo rin ipagmalaki na certified safe kayo sa inyong mga social media pages. Paalala lamang, ang isang safety seal ay para sa isang branch lang. Siguraduhin bawat branch mo ay certified safe. Siguraduhin din na nasusunod palagi ang minimum public health standards dahil baka mabawi ang iyong certification. Maaring mag-operate kahit na walang safety seal. Pero hindi ba mas mahalagang kampante ang mga customer sa loob ng iyong negosyo? Kaya kumuha na ng safety seal para ingat-angat tayong lahat.
The Army has called the Communist Party of the Philippines New People's Army National Democratic Front as no longer significant in Panay Province. Captain Kim Apitong of the 3rd Infantry Division said 2 of its top leaders in Western and Central Visayas have been neutralized by government troops in 2021. Joven Seralvo, commanding officer of the Front Operational Command, was killed on December 1st in an NPA hideout in Barangay Alimodias, Miagao, Iloilo. Reynaldo Bocala alias Ross Bading, the chief of the Regional Finance Bureau of Comiteng Regional Panay, was slain in a shootout with government troops on May 28 in Pavia, Iloilo. A total of 142 CPP, NPA, and DF were neutralized in Western and Central Visayas since last year. The 3ID also noted the lack of mass actions in Panay each time the terror group has an event such as their anniversary. Seralvo credited the support from the community, which provides relevant information for their successful anti-insurgency campaign. He said that the terrorist group has lost control of barangays where they used to have sympathizers. In our news overseas, the World Health Organization expressed anew its worry over the increase in COVID-19 deaths around the world. WHO Chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said it has been 2 years since a public health emergency of international concern was declared over the spread of COVID-19. He noted that at this point, more than 370 million cases, including more than 5.6 million deaths, have been reported. Almost 90 million cases have been reported to WHO, more than were reported in 2020 since Omicron was first identified just 10 weeks ago. Tedros said the WHO is not calling for any country to return to holding lockdowns, but it is instead urging all countries to offer protection using every tool other than vaccines. He said the WHO wants countries to improve vaccines in anticipation of the evolving of the virus. Police have filed a murder complaint against 2 suspects in the killing of veteran journalist Jesus Jess Malabanan. Undersecretary Joel C. Egco, Executive Director of the Presidential Task Force on Media Security, said the PNP has successfully completed its initial findings with a filing of charges against suspects Aris Solomon and Jerry Trinidad. Egco said he has absolute confidence in the investigation done by the PNP. Malabanan was shot dead by motorcycle-riding gunmen inside his small store in Calbayog City on December last year. The PNP suspects a dispute over a large tract of land in Calbayog as the motive for the killing. Malabanan represented a group of poor farmers who were fighting for their rights over the property. Despite the killing not being related to his work, Egco vowed that they will use all available manpower and resources at the president's disposal to put the masterminds and their cohorts behind bars. The Department of Science and Technology wants the country to invest more in the pharmaceutical industry. DOST Secretary Fortunato de la Peña said the private sector should commercialize the results of the agency's investments over research and development and drug discovery. Among this is the Tuklas Lunas program that aims to help strengthen the capacities of researchers and the local industry in drug discovery and development. Through this program, the DOST focuses on medicines that can be derived from natural resources such as plants and marine life. De la Peña said he wants technology transfer to the private sector with the upcoming establishment of the Virology Science and Technology Institute of the Philippines, or VIP. For 2022, the DOST has allocated almost 800 million pesos for several researches and projects for the VIP. He said the VIP will be at the forefront in virology research and the development of diagnostic devices. In sports, the torch relay for the 2022 Olympic Winter Games started in Beijing on Wednesday, just 2 days before the Games officially opens. Chinese Vice Premier Han Zheng lit the torch at the launch ceremony held at the Olympic Forest Park, then handed it to 80-year-old Luo Shihuan, China's first winter sports world champion. Some 1,200 participants are taking part in the relay, which will culminate with the lighting of the cauldron at the opening ceremony on Friday night. Chinese basketball legend Yao Ming and astronaut Jing Haipeng were among the first to carry the flame on Wednesday. The Winter Olympics will take place from February 4 to February 20. Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. President Rodrigo Duterte continues to work and act on urgent matters as he is under quarantine after being exposed to a COVID-19 case among his household staff. The Philippines has now over 59 million fully vaccinated Filipinos, or close to 76% of the target population. It also gears up for the inoculation of children aged 5 to 11. Commissioner Socorro Inting sits as acting chief of the Commission on Elections after 3 of its officials, including Chairperson Sharif Abbas, retire from the poll body just over 3 months before the May 9 elections. And the Science and Technology Department sees the need for investments in the pharmaceutical industry as the country grapples with the COVID-19 pandemic and other health concerns. As Filipinos, we all have a vital role to play in preventing the spread of COVID-19. So remember, wear your face masks and face shields, wash your hands often, practice safe physical distancing, go out only for essential reasons, and get vaccinated as soon as possible to protect ourselves, our families, and the community. Together, we can beat COVID-19. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. For more news content, check our webpage or log onto the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, we tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day, everyone.